All right, what's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode here on Sharkstalgia, where I talk about all things 80s and 90s in the form of modern era comebacks. And in today's episode, we're going to briefly talk about the new trailer for Toy Story 5, which just came out at the time of making this video, I believe yesterday. And I do have some thoughts in regards to where Toy Story should have ended and why continuing is slightly a good idea, but also for us who grew up in the 80s and 90s who saw Toy Story saw Toy Story 1 in theaters and loved everything about it, because if you are a action figure collector and just someone who grew up at that time of the 80s and 90s, who grew up buying action figures, buying toys, had an attachment to toys, created your own imaginations and storylines and thought about what would toys do if they came to life. And that's what made a lot of us resonate with the concept of Toy Story, is because it's about a coming of age story where you have a kid named Andy who just, gets the toys that he wants, or even if it's like a mixed bundle of different brands, those were at least like his friends growing up, in the sense of, you have your normal human friends, but your toys were also part of your life. And that's what made a lot of us resonate with Andy and just enjoy Toy Story for what it is and what it was. Now, as Andy grew older, we knew that in Toy Story 2, they added some new characters, and then he had some new recruits onto his lineup. And then at the same time in Toy Story 3, that's where Andy was heading off into college, and that's kind of a hard pill to swallow, because as we grow older, as we become adults, and we realize that we don't simply have that imagination anymore, we don't really have that that mindset as of a child, where we used to sit there and play with our toys and you know make conversations with them and just have them be by our side and do these crazy little action scenes and just play with them like crazy. Andy showcased that he was going off to college, and one of the things I didn't really like about Toy Story 3 was the fact that he gave away his toys. Like, I would never do that. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I would keep all my toys with me. But yeah, even if I were to box them up and put them away, at least I know I still have them. But Andy decided to just give them away. And that's a common scenario with a lot of people, because we know that growing up in the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of people who had their parents give away their toys that they grew up with. And we see them now in 2025, people reacquiring all their holy grails that they grew up with. So that's why Toy Story 3 would have been the most ideal way to end the entire Toy Story franchise, just because I feel like it resonates with a lot of us growing up in the 80s and 90s. Now, I will be honest, I did not see Toy Story 4 because I literally fell off the Toy Story concept after Toy Story 3, because that was such an emotional movie, and I think nothing can ever beat that story. So with that being said, I didn't see Toy Story 4, and I didn't really have much of an interest for it because, like I said, like I kind of moved on away from it. But now we have a Toy Story 5 movie coming out soon. And the trailer, I'll leave the link in the description below. The trailer briefly showcases all the toys, and apparently, from what I read, Woody was not technically uh shouldn't be there, so we don't know why Woody is there, because it had something to do with the fourth movie. But regardless of that, all the remaining toys that Andy, or the new girl that had his figures, they're all anticipating something new, in the sense of like what's in the box, right? So they're all like fearing that there's a new toy coming into their lives, and they don't know how they're going to adapt, just like how Woody didn't adapt to Buzz when he first came in. Um, and on top of that, what ends up happening is, within that trailer, we see the new introduction of the lillypad. And the lillypad is basically their version of the iPad. And we know that in today's generation, kids don't play with action figures anymore, as kids are very inclined to staying on their phones, staying on their iPads, or just anything with a screen. And the concept of collecting or playing with toys is no longer around us now. And we've seen that trend happen in the past like 10 years now. So this is a pretty interesting concept because we know that this is a reality sense of how kids can neglect the toys, and we can pretty much, have a safe bet that like the toys will be neglected and they're going to try to find their way to um you know, get back into the child's mind of like, hey, like remember us, like we're still here. Whereas everything that you're doing is all on the lily pad, it's all on the screen, and they feel like they need to get the love back. And that's kind of a common scenario within all the other movies as well. But seeing how the lily pad is more of the villain, I think it's a nice touch to showcase modern kids who are and will be watching Toy Story 5 in theaters or even after that, you know, don't neglect the toys that you grew up with because they helped build the foundation and the imagination. Whereas I feel like the iPads kind of disintegrate your thoughts because you're just like staring at it, mind numbing, like doom scrolling, your thoughts just for hours and hours. Whereas playing with toys kind of brought out all the creativity within a child. So, as much as I love that concept, as I said before, Toy Story 3 would have been the most ideal and definitive version to end the entire Toy Story franchise. Now, not to say that the kids these days don't deserve a new Toy Story, but in the sense of the continuation, because again, the toys went to that preschool in Toy Story 3 before they went to the little girl's house, whatever her name was. And then um, it was just like a heartfelt, emotional movie of seeing how these toys are just being tossed to daycares or being tossed to other people when like the real owner, it's like had an attachment to it. And as a toy collector myself, like you kind of feel what Andy was feeling because he knows like yeah, he grew up and he didn't have time to play with his toys anymore because he moved on to bigger and better things. But knowing that he gave away his toys to a new child who would at least appreciate them is kind of like it's heartwarming, it's heartfelt. But seeing how we have the continuation here, again, skipping over 4 because I didn't see it, I will give this movie a chance just because this is something that a lot of us who are parents to new kids who can't control their kids and give them iPads, give them phones, and barely toys that they don't, because the toys don't talk back. The videos usually give them that little sense of belonging or the sense of calmness, whereas the toys are just like plastic that just stares at them, right? So this is why I will give this movie a chance, but to be quite honest, like I said, Toy Story 3 will always be the definitive ending of the Toy Story franchise. 1, 2, and 3 is just the most iconic, you know, movies to date. Other than that, don't really have much else to say, and it's just more of a small trailer teaser kind of thing. I will give more thoughts when we get a more official, more lengthy videos. But for now, those are just my thoughts for what I think of Toy Story 5. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys all for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Toy Story 5, and I'll talk to you all in the next episode.